We are going live and we're live. Okay, here we are. So Ken Polo Fields Lawn and Service, my man Ken, he is first in the building. Thank you for being here. I
What's
appreciate
up, Ken? I know Ken. I
you
met
know
him
Ken. Oh yeah,
personally.
you
Yep.
met him. Yeah, you
Yep.
met. He's down there in Kentucky with they
Yep.
call it the thickest lawn on Instagram, right? He's got the turf type tall fescue out there. Chas Bishop, that's a new face. Hey, how you doing, Chas? Appreciate you being here. Gigi, hey girl, how you doing? Thank you for being here. Brandon Hayden, let's go. Spray and pray. My man Cam, Elevated Lawnscapes. Hey, how you doing? Thank you for being here. My lovely wife, Super Saiyan 231, is in the building. She's a huge Dragon Ball Z fan, if you can't tell. And Broke Farmer 76. Hey, how you doing? A couple of legends. Thank you. I appreciate that. But I'm very new in this. So this is a legend for sure. We got Allyn in the building. Dion, hello. So for those who already know, you already know that this is Allyn Hane, the lawn care nut. There's no person that comes on YouTube who starts their lawn care enthusiasm adventure without discovering who Allyn Hane is. We all know him very well if you are already into lawn care. But I want to pivot for a moment because I know that I have just as many garden people or will have just as many garden people rewatch this just as much as lawn care enthusiasts. And I want to give you one of my trade secrets away. I'm going to give it to you right here today. Yep, I'm going to do that. So when I first came on YouTube and I looked to fix a hole in my backyard, I ran across quite a few YouTubers. There was two that stuck in the forefront of my head. Well, three that stuck in the forefront of my head in the very beginning, and I'll give them to you in this order of precedence. It was one, Allyn Hane, the lawn care nut. I'll circle back to why. Two, Pete Denny from GCI Turf Services, and then three, John Perry, the soil master, long roots guy. And circling back to Allyn, the thing that gravitated me most to Allyn was one, he spoke in a language that was very easy for me to understand. Me coming in not knowing anything about lawn care at the time, as you guys know, even my garden family, lawn care is my first love. It will remain my first love, although I have picked up a new love, and my wife does not mind it at all. Lawn care was the first love. It delivered the amount of peace I needed from things at that time in my life. Now, moving forward, fast forward, I stumble across Allyn, and he's speaking in a language that's just so clear and defined. And he's coming out with this entertaining, but yet still very informative videos that just really landed very well with me as far as how to understand where to start with my lawn. And then and then lastly, he's a service member as well. Thank you for your service, Allyn. I really appreciate that.
That's it, bro.
Yeah, the cheer force it may be, but needless to say, I appreciate your service. We're all brothers in arms for sure. And then moving forward, P. Denny, just as country as all get out. And that from that from me, I was like, this dude is being authentic. He's not trying to clean up his accent at all. And then you guys, of course, know I had the pleasure of meeting Pete, and he is exactly who he seems to be, full front and through. That guy is completely transparent. I hope to one day make it down to Florida to meet Allyn as well. And Pete really, I loved Pete for the science side. Like Pete liked to play with, he liked to take it a step further. He's over there testing pHs and whatnot. And as simple as he tried to make it and downplay his wealth of knowledge, this guy has a wealth of knowledge and experience, and a very interesting story that one day, hopefully, I can expound on along with him here on this channel or some other platform. And then John Perry, he hit home with me as far as take all that information, the science and the basics, and then let's revert back to trying to highlight things that we can do to increase our soul's health. So these three guys had a very big impact on me getting a solid foundation as a lawn care enthusiast. This has nothing to do with me becoming a YouTuber as I am today. But what it did was it gave me a foundation to understand the language, the proper terms, the terminology, to where I could go off on my own to my local extension office. I can dig through these pages of books and information to where if I understood the language, everything else would kind of just fall into place. So my big secret to you today is Allyn Hane is where that started from me. And I'll take it one step further. Please bear with me, and then I'll give the floor to Allyn, our guest. When I found Allyn, I was in a very dark place in my life. Not to say that my life was torn apart, like my marriage was falling apart or anything like that, or my career was falling apart. It wasn't that. It was more so things that I thought weren't affecting me anymore had come to fruition full force. And what I'm talking about is my experiences in deployments, things that I thought I left behind, I thought that I had recovered from or made peace with. They just came back full rush, full cycle for me. And what happened was listening to Allyn, listening to him speak, especially his podcast, The Lawns Across America, and hearing other people's stories about how this was such a positive effect on their life. And here I am, I found myself in the same boat, where once I used to have so much noise in my head that I could barely complete a sentence when I was home because I was scrambling with things in my head. I am now able to sort and compartmentalize different things that are going on in my life and focus on what was in front of me at the moment. So without further ado, I thank you very much, Allyn Hane, for pretty much saving my life. I have told him this, I have written him this, and I know he hears it all the time, but I say you saved my life because there's no telling where I would be now today. Fast forward, we'll rewind 2 years later back up into this moment right now without finding you. And I know you hear that all the time, but I wanted to start the floor with that. And then, of course, please tell the people who you are. For the people that don't know, a little bit about yourself, how you got it into not just the YouTube, but a little bit before YouTube as well, to familiarize these people with who you are.
Thanks, Rob. Yeah, listen, before we go any further, that's awesome that what you found in lawn care was a way to kind of ground yourself. And I don't think we talk about that enough. And it's not, I hear that from veterans quite a bit, active military guys, but I hear it from other people too. Some people that don't have anything that serious necessarily. It's serious to them. People that just have hectic lives, or they just have a lot of stress at work. They find peace in taking care of the lawn because it's something living. And I like to highlight that. If you think about it, when you buy a house, I've said this many times, when you buy a house, everything in that house is dead. Like the roof isn't alive, the countertops aren't alive. Things are actually on the way of decaying. Your floors need to be replaced. Roofs need to be replaced. But the lawn is like the only living thing. It's the thing that if you put into it and nurture it, it actually grows and rewards you and looks beautiful. And it's you feel good if you replace your roof, but you feel really good if you make your lawn from garbage to beautiful and you keep it there and you maintain it because it constantly needs you. Whereas the roof is just once every 30 years, right? So there is a lot that people find in that. And it's also, this is mostly men, so I don't want to leave out the ladies that do lawn care because there's a lot. But
of course not, because we got Girls LZ in the building right
I'm sure, right? Yeah.
Right.
But in general, as men, 100 years ago, we would conquer land. Literally, we would physically go and take land. And and maybe not 100 years ago, maybe 200. But but right. You'd go to any town and you'd have to be ready to throw down. Somebody would want to like kill you or take your wife and your money.
Right.
And so as men, we don't have that anymore. We're stuck in cubicles, and there's this, it can build up. You don't have that release. And I'm not saying that everything that happened 2 years ago was good, 200 years ago was good, but you get what I'm saying? Like there was just this different way of living that as a man, you would let stuff out and you would let that aggression roll. And we don't have that anymore. And that's essentially what Dominate Your Neighbor is. Yes. It's 5'8", shaped like a bowling pin, can't fight his way out of a paper bag, Allyn Hane, sissy boy, who lives next to a police officer who is freaking swolled and 10 years younger, and I could never and he was a good dude. I'm talking about Northwest Indiana. I lived up there. He
Right,
was a
right,
good guy. He was, you know,
right.
but I could never dominate that dude. But when
Right.
my lawn looked better than him, it was like that was my land, baby. Don't mess with my land. You know, it was like that little remnant of 200 years ago where I dominated some land, you know, and I think we still have a little piece of that in us, but it's your little piece of land. It's your little piece of area that you take care of and you tend and you love and that needs you and that rewards you. And we all know you get that shot of, I don't know if it's endorphins or what it is after you put down fur or even after you mow and you look and you edge and you look back at your lawn, it looks so great. And you, in your
Yeah.
case, you know, you can mow some stripes. There's a little shot of that hits you. You know, it's like a little drug. That's why people end up throwing fur down like every 3 weeks because they want that.
They want that.
Not don't do that, but
They want that urge.
yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to point that out that we all feel that in some way, and I don't. That's my best way of expressing it. I don't know how else to say it, but there's just something about that primal piece of lawn care. But yeah, wish I could. I don't know. Wish I could express that better.
No, yeah, no, that yeah, I think you nail on the head. As far as opening up, I think you're right. You know, I think that nowadays the way that the life is, the people who aren't 6'2", 250 pounds, for guys like me, that's I mean, you're 5'8", I'm 5'7". I make up for it with my brain. I promise you, I do. But we need a way to release, whether that be in a domination effect. And I kind of took what you did, and I realized for me, because of the things that were happening around me, it was dominating can very well be inspirational, right? But I figured, I'd steal that and go with the line of inspiration type thing. So if you guys ever wondered where I pulled line of inspiration from, it came from line of domination. Even in that video, I think I went from like line of domination to line of something, and then I ended on line of inspiration. So I went from dominating the neighbor to, and it was all like intertwined, because the first neighbor that I had, they didn't care. So it was a domination. And then for me, the next step was more so of a growth for myself within. And then moving forward, the next neighbor, I inspired them to get their lawn right. Matter of fact, I prepared for this, and I'm going to switch up my background just so you guys can see that this stuff is more than capable. Boom, there it is. Over here, we have my lawn fall 2019, and that was my neighbor over there who didn't much care for their lawn. And then over here, we have this past fall 2020, where my lawn is now, came up very far from here, but then the line of inspiration slash domination has dramatically faded because my neighbor was inspired to take care of their lawn. So within 1 year, I was able to take both of these, and flip them to what you see now with his lawn care program, which I'd like to share with you guys, especially gardeners, because you guys ask me a lot of questions. And what I realize is the same with gardening. If you don't have the vocabulary, a foundation of what it is that you're supposed to be doing, like the language that I'm speaking, every and anything that I say kind of seems well overblown and over the top of your head, or not worth getting into. Whereas I promise you, if you get this guide, whether you're a cool season guide or a cool season guy or gal, or warm season guy or gal, it will give you the foundation to be able to listen to anything I have to say after you read this guide and learn it, to do more. This will be the foundation. So I just dropped the link in the chat. It'll take you to the PDF guides that are available on the lawncarenut.com. I encourage you to pick up that guide. And you could be thinking to yourself, why did you just promote a guide that you won't be getting anything from? It's because this guide is that amazing. I'm just telling you. Matter of fact, if your lifestyle is anything like mine and you're prompt to move, cool or warm season zone, go ahead and save yourself 10, 15 bucks and get them both at a discounted price at like 35 bucks for both of those guides. You can get the cool and warm season guide, and that way you learn both different types of grass types. So if you pick up that, hey Aiden, hey, how you doing, bro? Thank you for being here. Ooh, I just kicked the
Rolling.
camera. But if you pick up those guides, what I can guarantee you is that you will be able to understand everything that I say moving forward this season. So skipping through, let's shift gears and move forward. Now, Allyn, you have been doing YouTube for 10 years, over 10 years at this point. Yeah. But before that, you used to work with True Green, right? And you worked with True Green for about what? About a half a decade, about 5 years, from what I
15
know.
years.
Oh my goodness, I was way off there. Okay, so combined with his YouTube time and True Green time, uh, Allyn has enough time to retire, because you do 20 years in the military and then you're done. Um, but with that, you guys got to understand he has a wealth of knowledge, and what he's been able to do is take his knack for public speaking and convert that into a way that is very easily digestible for the average homeowner, DIY market, of course. And of course, from that, you have birthed the company Yard Mastery. So you talk about working for the man, the government, being an Air Force enlisted service member, and then leaving that, going off on your own, working for a company, working your way to one of the highest positions you could within that company, leaving and throwing it all on fate and sheer willpower to make something happen and believing in yourself, dedicating to YouTube, going full time on YouTube. And now from that, you have what is going to be a Fortune 500 company one day called Yard Mastery, a rival of Amazon when it comes to lawn care enthusiasts. So, how do you feel about that? Like reflecting on your journey, your 25-year-old journey to today, to speaking to little old me, Robert Palmer, active duty service member. How do you feel about the footprint you've made on this world and within this community?
Well, that's a big setup. I
Yeah, I did that.
I actually try not to think of it in those terms.
Okay.
So I didn't set out to make this what it is. It actually started because I was working at True Green, and I always have to say it doesn't matter what people think about True Green Chem Lawn. Some people don't like True Green at all. They've had terrible experiences, and I understand that. Some people have good experiences. I learned both things there. I learned good and bad things. I learned how not to do lawns. I learned how to do lawns. I learned how not to run a business, but also I learned how to run a business. I had really, really good mentors there, people that when I was younger, I was not, how should I say, I didn't know how to shut my mouth. I would say stupid things all the time. I would speak my mind. I mean, I would have never wanted me to work for me.
Right.
But I had really good mentors who saw something in me and would work with me and try to calm me down and this and that. And so I learned a lot of really good things there. And essentially my YouTube channel started as, because of the way True Green marketed itself as a price leader. It didn't market itself on quality. Even though we had, people that had been working in there 30 years, spraying lawns on the south side of Chicago for 30 years and really knew the soil and everything. We didn't market that. We marketed on price. And so when somebody's lawn would look bad, because all we had was price, that's all we could do is, well, we'll just lower your price for you. But if somebody's mad about weeds or their lawn looking bad, they don't care about a low price. So they would just treat us like garbage. And that used to really frustrate me, being a big mouth idiot that I was, and having customers just talk to me like I was nothing really frustrated me majorly.
Right.
And so when the internet started coming along, like in 2007, I was like, I'm gonna start a blog. Everybody's blogging. Blogging was like everything in
Blogging was a
2000s.
thing.
Yeah. And so I figured out how to start a blog. I started a blog spot, which was a Google thing. And then I eventually moved it to WordPress on my own domain. But I would basically take, when people would call in during the day with questions or concerns and they wouldn't believe me, I would go home at night and I would write the answer in a blog post.
Yes.
And my idea was that when someone would call in again with that idea, I'd be like, you know what? You don't believe me. Why don't you go on this website and believe this fella on the internet? I wouldn't say it was me. Just go believe this guy. He's saying the same thing I am, because people trusted the internet.
Right.
And that's how I started it. But eventually that blog grew to where it had like 15,000 visits a month, and we're all organic, which was a big deal in 2008. when it
Yes.
started getting that. And I was just like, wow, this is pretty cool. I didn't know anything about the internet or anything like that. And so I started learning, and I thought I could probably monetize this. So I wrote a book, which the ebook that I have today now originally was sold on that website. It was only like 10 pages at that time, and it was real basic. And now it's 125 pages, and
Yes.
it's much more in depth. But I started doing that. I made money in Google AdSense. But the other thing was I started learning how SEO works, search engine optimization.
Yeah.
And so then I was like, I might be able to change my course in life with this.
Yes.
And the other reason I liked it, it was this writing, and I was a writer in the Air Force. I was a photojournalist. I worked in PA. So it really worked along the lines of things I liked, taking pictures. I understood. Also, the internet was, at that time, it was about conversion rate optimization and laying your page out a certain way to
Right.
lead the eye a certain way, which is the same thing I did with the base newspaper.
Right.
So a lot of the things that I did in the Air Force appealed to me with blogging and setting up web pages and things like that. Eventually, I sold that blog for a pretty large sum of money, and could have sold it for 10 times what I did, but I didn't know. And
Right.
still working for True Green. And then I took the money and reinvested it and I bought a whole bunch of domains on all different subjects and started writing all kinds of content, just seeing what I could do. I worked in a little spammy niches. I did some black hat kind of stuff. But during all that, I learned to actually really like Google and what the algorithm was, and understanding what true content was. And so then I got rid of my old ways and really started making things move. Now I was still working for True Green. So during that time, I couldn't really go on YouTube because YouTube started in 2005. So this is like 2009, 10, 11.
Hmm.
YouTube was getting bigger. It was like there was a family vlogger on there called the Shaytards. They were getting big. PewDiePie was on there. Um, there was Roman Atwood was starting to get big. I started kind of watching a lot of YouTube that way, and Epic Mealtime was getting big. If you guys remember any of these, a lot of these aren't even around anymore. But
Right. Right.
I started thinking, I wonder if I could do something like that. But while working for True Green, they didn't know anything about my blog because they were so into direct mail that they didn't have any idea what the internet was.
Right.
So they didn't care about my blog. But if I would have gone on YouTube, and at that time I was a regional manager, it probably wouldn't have been a good thing for my non-compete agreement.
Right.
So I was kind of just stymied for a little bit. Well, then I started taking on customers on the side, doing SEO for them, search engine optimization and local optimization in Crown Point, Indiana, where I lived. For some reason, a bunch of travel agents called me, so I had a whole bunch of clients that way. I had a guy that did um, uh, mildew remediation was my client. I just started getting clients, and I
Okay.
even started working for some pretty big internet companies. That I used to work for one called My Coupons, and I did all their SEO. And I started making some really good money on the side while still working for True Green. And I thought, I might be able to do something with this. So in 2012, my neighbor started working for a little startup that was meeting in the library in the library in Naperville, Illinois, a little startup called Launch Digital Marketing. She
Right.
started working there doing content, and they did digital marketing for auto dealers. And she said, hey, you do this SEO stuff. You should talk to my boss. He started a company. So I went and met with him, and found out that I really liked what he was about, and he needed somebody like me. And
Right.
so he hired me as his first vice president in 2000, at the end of 2012. And I left a 15-year career at True Green, and I was doing really well. I was at six figures at that time. And I took like a $40,000 a year pay cut to go and work for this little startup. I was the ninth employee. They gave me a VP title, so I thought that was cool.
Like I'm
Um,
VP.
yeah, but I knew that. So still didn't know that YouTube was where I was going to be, but I knew I loved digital marketing and content and search. I loved that. So I started working for that company. Well, now the cuffs were off. So while I had done a few videos here and there before on YouTube, like some experimental small videos, like you'll see, I think my first one was 2009. I'd done
Yeah.
a couple, two or three here or there playing around with SEO. It was in 2012 that the cuffs came off, and 13 and on is when I really started taking YouTube seriously, because I wasn't with True Green anymore. And
Okay.
my videos were essentially the way I used to train my technicians, because when I would get a lawn technician in, True Green would give you 2 weeks to get them ramped up, and they're out spraying,
Gotcha.
which
That's not a lot of experience at all.
No.
It's
So
like
I
you got
had,
to do
yeah.
wonders in 2 weeks.
That's why I tell our people, you know more than the average lawn technician on the road
That's
today.
true, because they asked me here where I live what I'm doing to my lawn, and I'm
Yeah.
confused because I said, "Don't you have the contract for this area? Why
Yeah.
why are you asking me?" Like,
And listen, that's not a bag on True Green technicians either. The guys that have been doing it for a long time are very smart, but the guys that they're just throwing on the road, they're having to work, spray in the rain, work Saturdays till 5 o'clock. It's a hard life.
Yeah.
If you want to be a lawn professional, you should go work at True Green for three years and take the butt kicking, and you'll learn a lot. And then you can go out and do it better. But anyway, so the long and the short of it was I started doing those videos, and all I did was just make videos about how I would train my lawn technicians. And I still do that today. I'm still considering myself a writer at heart. Number one, my favorite times are when I write my weekly emails. That's my very favorite thing that I do, is my weekly email that goes out on Tuesdays. I love making videos. I love the podcast a lot. But my emails are my favorite thing to do, or writing blog posts and things like that. So I still do that, still try to teach like I taught my lawn technicians. That's why we get slightly technical, but not too technical. I get into math a little bit. I want you to understand the why behind things, but I don't go too crazy in the technical, because you don't have to know all the science of everything in order to have a nice lawn, but you do have to know why you're doing what you're doing. And so, like you mentioned, Pete, yeah, he definitely tries to hide his intelligence behind that accent.
He tries.
Yeah, but he's a soil scientist for sure.
Yeah.
Paul's Prime Cuts, same way.
Yes.
He's the same exact.
I met him
super
as well.
Smart. Yeah. So, that's not me. They call me the gateway drug in a way.
Yeah,
that's fine.
you are.
Yeah, I'm good with that, because there's 90 million homes in this country. And I have 287,000 subscribers, and like
got a long way to go.
only like 10 of those actually watch every video. So we have a lot to go out and discover. So I like to stay in the lane that I'm in, and I think that's a good place to go. Anyway, that's kind of like the story in a nutshell, I guess. I didn't really go full time until a couple years ago. That startup sold for 160 million like 3 years ago, I think.
Right.
So I saw that grow from the ground up. It has 600 employees now. I watched every bit of that growth. I didn't have any equity, so I just got to watch it, but I got a good education out of it. And I'm taking a lot of what I learned and putting that into my business, because essentially Yard Mastery is a technology company. A lot of people don't like that I've turned it into a business, but you got to do something. You got to keep growing, or you're going to go stale and stagnant. And we're a technology company. It's really our app that drives everything. And that's really the future of where everything is going, and the intelligence behind it. Yep. And yeah, so I consider us a technology company in that regard.
Right. Yeah. And to his point, guys, like he said, you when you feel yourself stealing out, you got to do something. Yard Mastery is an amazing company. You can get your hands on a lot of products, a lot of very specific products that will help you amend your soil when you do something like a soil test, right? You do that soil test, you understand what your soil test is, but a lot of times when you go to these big box stores, they don't have these blends that are specific to your area. What I think they do, I'm not sure what they do, but I think they take maybe more so a guesstimation for your area, or maybe it's an estimation for your area of what that soil profile looks like, and then they stock the stores accordingly. But that's not specific to your specific soil in your community, in your little microclimate. So what Yard Mastery allows you to do is have an easy, accessible way to get to these products. One of those, a nice segue into that, would be prodiamine. If you guys are thinking of doing pre-emergence this season, I recently just did a video where I recorded it before Allyn, but then he released his podcast before me. But he touched on something in his podcast that I had harped on in my video, which is pre-emergence aren't supposed to be used for the entirety of your lawn's life cycle. The idea of using these pre-emergence is to get control, to establish control over the situation in your lawn, to then develop a healthy turf, encourage a healthy turf. And what's really cool about one of these things that Yard Mastery does is, I wish that they had this product before I ordered what I ordered, but I ordered the WDG prodiamine. I got a jug, the smallest jug available, on Do My Own. I need like 3 acres to be able to use this stuff by the time that it goes out of date. So I will be handing away bags and ounces to people that I know that can use it before it goes to waste, because it does me no good to pour it down the drain either, because that's terrible for the environment as well. But what they've done is, one of the first that I know of is taking a solution like prodiamine and put it in a more reasonable packaging size for the average homeowner. And I know we've been neglecting the chat, so let me jump in the chat for a little while and see what's going on down here. So I'm just going to start from here where I'm the lawn in life. Hey, brother, thank you. I appreciate your donation today. I've recently seen an uptick of people mowing lawns with a scythe. Benefits to that, or is it just a fad? I think that's a fad. I would never try to that. I would be more concerned if the people are doing an accurate mow with a scythe. I would just watch them, or make a friend of them, because that's impressive. What do you think, Allyn?
I mean, I throw my back out wiping my rear end, so I don't think, I don't jump over puddles anymore if I don't have to. So, I mean, I think that's cool. That's savage. I mean, Joe Rogan has that On It company where they're twirling like gorilla heads and all kind of crazy things. I mean, I think people are going back to their primal side, and if you're going to mow your lawn with one of those things, more power to you. But
go for it. Yeah, that's news to me, Tiffany. That's news to me for sure. I'm gonna switch back over to the regular backdrop. Mark from Long Creeps Limited. Thanks, brother. I appreciate you being here. He says,
there we go. Hey, that's Mark from Illinois for Potter. What's up, brother?
Over in Illinois. SEL, that's impressive, tough to master. Of course, yes. Girls L. I don't know if you know. Do you know about Girls Lawn, Allyn? Oh, PJ over there. She's a female.
Didn't John Perry shout her out recently too?
Oh yeah, he did. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, PJ's in the building, everyone. If you're looking for a female lawn care enthusiast to follow, you got to go follow that channel, Girls Lawn, for sure. So I became a homeowner in 2008 and built my knowledge through tons of reading and trial and error. I stumbled upon Allyn's channel somewhere around 2010, and I thought, here's a dude is as crazy as I am. Of course, right? And I think we all have that moment when we stumble to Allyn's channel. You said you will take that off my hands, Cam. Okay, I'll make sure I pass it to you. Fescue Freddy's in the building. Then once it knows who is boss, you can let up. Exactly. Once you maybe establish the weed dominance, right? You use those chemicals, the pre-emergence or post-emergence, to get your lawn to a healthy state like this. You guys saw what this lawn looked like. I just showed you. It looked like that less than a year ago. The picture, and then if you want to look if you want to see what it looked like in the summer before I started those fall applications, that was the first overseeding. You just look to the lawn to the left of it, because that's how bad it was. And in a very short period of time, it turned over very quickly. Hey, Beauty in the Garden, thank you for being here.
I like the philosophy. So I equate a lot of lawn care to the way we take care of our health, and I'm like not healthy right now. I keep alluding to that. I'm in bad shape, but whatever. We'll blame COVID like everything else.
Right? Yeah, COVID is COVID.
Right. You get demonetized now, but sorry.
Nah, they don't care about
it.
But
like if somebody has like high blood pressure, well, you can get on blood pressure medicine, but the idea isn't for you to be on that the rest of your life.
Yes, exactly.
The idea is you get on that, but then you correct other things, whether you need to exercise more, change your diet, right? So that over time, you don't have to take that anymore. That's the healthy way to do it. That's the same thing with lawn care. Yeah. You use chemicals wisely in the beginning because they're going to help you get down the road quicker. But once you have a healthy, thick turf stand and you can, get the mowing under control, you shouldn't really need to use that many weed controls. I had to spray weeds today. I made some videos. This is the first time I've sprayed weeds in like a year and a half, because I got some this year. We just had a tough run, but I don't spray weeds that often. So you just have to work on it that way. That's the goal. That's called integrated pest management. Yes. Use the hard control when you have to, and then once you don't have to use it anymore, stop. That is really the most environmentally friendly way to go.
Yes, I agree. And the simple fact that you've made a product like prodiamine that was ghastly overweighted, I'm sure.
Yeah, we did that. I'll say I did that because, that's one of the goals that I started with Yard Mastery is DIY first. When I first started doing this years ago, no one would talk to me. Now there's like sponsors all over the place, which is awesome. But even when I would talk to companies in the past, they wanted nothing to do with DIY. Even as recently as the last couple of months, I'm talking to very large companies and I'm like, you guys have to start paying attention to DIY. They don't do it. They only want to deal with their golf course people. And I'm like, how many golf courses are in this country?
Right.
You know, I mean, you're only going to sell so much, right? But that's because boomers run a lot of these companies. Sorry, I'm not a boomer. I'm Gen Xer. but you know, they have that boomer mentality where it's just like, well, this is how we've always done it, and this is all we're going to do. I'm like, you're losing out. But see, there are smart people like a John Perry that put a lot of effort into DIY, and now it's paying off. And I've always told people, DIY is moving the marketplace now, and I'll tell you exactly why DIY moves the marketplace. Golf course superintendents, lawn professionals, when they find something that works, they hide it. They don't want anyone else to know, because that's my secret. That's my secret sauce that I came up with. I'm not gonna hide it. DIYers are exactly the opposite. When we find something that works, we tell everybody because we're cool.
right? I found it first, or I found it and I discovered that it's valid.
Exactly. And if so that so if you're a company that's out there and you want to get your stuff out there, you should give it to DIYers or work with DIYers. Don't give, but work with DIYers, because we're going to spread your brand much faster than any professional. And I'll tell you who you look at. Go look at Silver Symbol. Silver Symbol, one of my favorite YouTubers. He's not just a lawn guy. He does a lot of stuff, but he's one of my favorite YouTubers because he's very authentic. He finds something he likes as a DIYer and he tells you what he likes about it. He doesn't act like, he doesn't move out of his lane and say things he doesn't know. He says only what his experience is. So he's very authentic in that way. And look at his videos on tenacity. You know why people know about tenacity? It's because of him, not because of some professional in Rhode Island that sprays 5 lawns a week.
Right.
So, and I'm passionate about that because DIY moves the market. And I just wish, and I know it's going to happen, more and more and more people are going to start paying attention to that. By the way, that's why we did the 5 ounce per diamond. One of my best partners, Sunnyland, who believes in DIY, he said, you know what? Because you can't just package this stuff up. So he went and got the approvals to do it in that smaller case. He got it all approved through the EPA, you know, all of these things. He invested in machinery that would be able to fill those small bottles. He did all of that for me because he believes in what we would be able to do.
That's awesome.
And now we're, you know, we're doing well. And that helps our friends, our DIYers.
Right. And influence the market that way. That's an amazing story, guys. Amazing story for sure. So I want to pivot for a moment because you brought up a good thing. DIY is moving the market. And as you know, we're moving into a new season. And with that new season, it brings along what? A lot of new lawn care enthusiasts, right? And the video that I released was, I imagine, is along the same terms as the video that you released, where you kind of wanted to give them a touch point, somewhere to start, to familiarize themselves, so they don't go out there and make mistakes, because sometimes you'll find videos at the wrong time in the season and think that it applies to you. So since we have a good amount of those people in here right now, if you have any specific questions, if you're a beginner lawn care enthusiast or you're thinking about getting into your lawn, please drop them in the comments below over here. Moderators, please help me keep track of them. If you have any questions, put them in all caps for me because the chat's moving kind of fast on and off. But any questions, specific questions to Allyn, but I want to shift gears and speak directly to our brand new lawn care enthusiasts. And one thing that you'll be seeing coming up in my next video dealing with lawn care, probably mid next week or around Thursday or something like that, is cultural practices. I'll be harping very heavy on cultural practice, very specifically guided to the person that wants to be organic as possible. Gardeners, I'm looking at you. But giving you expectation management with you choosing to get your lawn under control that way. Now, I know I have a wonderful friend, Mark Lawn Creeps Limited. He will attest to the practices that I will teach you in there, but I'll give you a quick little snipe on it right now, which is pretty much your cultural practice will go further than you could ever imagine. Proper watering, mowing, and feeding will get you not the worst lawn on the block 10 times out of 10. Easily, excuse me. You'll easily become a terrible lawn to a lawn that you're proud of without using any chemical other than synthetic fertilizers, if you choose to use them, or use organic, Milo. We all know Milo because of Allyn Hane, I would imagine. But use Milorganite. You can use that in your lawn as well. But you will have a better lawn by just keeping up with those cultural practices. So, is there any high points or anything? And Eco, thank you for that donation, brother. I just saw that. I appreciate it. But is there anything that we can give to them right now in this moment, Allyn? And you got the floor. Speak directly to our brand new lawn care enthusiasts, please.
I will, and then you have to tell me about that wine you made, because I'm really curious about how good. Because that's some army hooch right there. Just you probably been doing that. I mean, I listen. When I was in Turkey and I was stationed in Turkey, the best hooch came from the army guys. I'm
just yeah, well, I'll get on that right after that.
But I would say for sure, the more you mow, the healthier your lawn will grow. I actually had some CMO of some giant startup making fun of me on Twitter the other day.
Okay.
About that, saying he thought we were hilarious, but yeah, he quoted me and said he thought that was hilarious, and I'm like, but you watched my videos, jerkwad. Right. But anyway, you're the one that has a crappy lawn. Eat my ass. But so he, but yeah, the more you mow. So if you ask anybody in lawn care, the number one thing they want their customers to do is properly mow. Think about when you lift weights. When you lift weights, what are you doing? You're tearing your muscle down so that it can build back up stronger. And that is exactly what mowing is doing. It's tearing the lawn down so it can build back up stronger. It also keeps the lawn from being lazy. The more you cut it, the more it has to grow. So it has to take in water, has to take in nutrients, has to take in sunlight so it can do photosynthesis. It has to continually move. And as you're cutting it, it's moving, it's growing. It's just like cardio. The reason that people that do cardio all the time are healthy is because they're exercising their heart. Their blood is pumping. They are sweating. Sweating is good for you. It's all like the same as your body. By the way, we can start talking about marks and their lawn creeps. We can talk about the soil biome and how that works on your gut microbiome, how the exact same thing, how that if your gut microbiome is off, you will have a leaky gut and you will be the most unhealthy person in the world. And the same thing is to do with the rhizosphere in your soil. And if your soil microbiome is off, you can do all you want. You will have the most unhealthy lawn. But all part of that is cycling that lawn, getting that lawn to move, getting that lawn to grow, getting it to go. Just like when you're unhealthy, if you start cardio, you will see gains quickly.
Yes.
And the same as with your lawn. So it goes back to mowing. Mowing is that one thing. It's like cardio for the lawn. I need to put that in my training.
Yeah. I'm about to say,
cardio for the lawn.
Like I'm picking up pieces. You might see it in my video before it's in your thing. So
you take it. Right. It's all yours, Rob.
But yeah, no, and there's no need for me to double down on that. He hit all the points exactly as I would have brought them up. I might steal a little swag there and throw it in my video next week for you guys. But that's really all it is for my brand new lawn care enthusiasts. If you hear me start talking about products, mentioning names that sound like they came out of a sci-fi movie, if you're uncomfortable with it, stop there and just make sure you did my first step, which was get a soil test. If you've never had one done, you don't have to do them every year. Your soil test is usually good for 2 to 4 years. If you're checking it every year, you're probably checking it for something very specific that had the potential to move a little bit within that year. That means that's probably something like your pH, right? Like you did an application for your pH. You want to see how much you bumped it, knowing that you probably didn't get it all the way, but you want to kind of do a checkpoint azimuth check type thing. But for the most part, if you get your soil test and you get out there when your grass is growing, when you're feeding it properly, and you mow it, you don't skip those mows. Do not skip the mow. If your grass is mowing, if it's growing more, mow it more. It's like spend that extra 2 to 3 times a week versus 1 time a week, and the payoff will be glorious. We're going to get into my DIY winemaking, but I think I have a couple questions. Eco he said, what is the go-to application for True Green? And I'm going to preference with maybe he means go-to application based off customers' response. I'm not sure if you're able to use that. I don't even know if you're the guidance that you'll give it will be accurate nowadays, but you can at least speak on from when you used to be in the True Green game. What you got for that, Allyn?
Yeah, so I think I know what he's talking about. So True Green, if you're up, I don't know where he's at, but True Green has like a 7 or 9. Where?
He's in Florida. He's in North
Florida.
He's
down here? Okay.
Yeah, he's down there with you.
That's going to be different then. True Green doesn't do a lot of pre-emergent south of I-4.
Okay.
But so I don't know what the go-to application for True Green is down here. I worked at True Green when I was in Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio. And up there, if you're going to buy one application from them, you want to call and you want to ask for what they call the three-way. So for us, it was round 2 was our three-way application. And that was in Northwest Indiana, mostly Chicago. And round 2 had pre-emergent, it had broadleaf, post-emergent weed control, and it had fertilizer. It's the most expensive app we did. Right. And so if you're going to buy one application from True Green, that's the one you want, because they do use prodiamine. They'll put it down liquid in that one. They usually do granular early in the year, and then they switch to liquid as it gets warmer so the trucks don't freeze. Won't freeze. But yeah, if you're going to get pre-emergent from True Green, they're going to put it down right. They're going to use prodiamine. And you know, they have liquid. So if you have dandelions, if you have a sea of dandelions and you don't know what the heck to do, they'll kill them. I mean, you can spit on a dandelion and it dies, but they'll blanket it nice for you.
Right.
You know, so I guess that's what he means. Is that the go-to? You could also have them aerate for you. Yeah. A lot of people, you know, the one thing I understand, I'll say this, I want to bring this out, Rob, because a lot of times I give advice to people, and my advice is not always what people would consider the number one perfect advice. Like so many people nowadays, they only read black and white. There's no gray with them.
Of course.
And I really try to be the other way. I try to be all gray all the time. Right. So, you know, and I give advice based on what I know the majority of people are going to have success with. It may not be the number one 100% correct advice that's bulletproof and nobody can refute it. But what I do know is the advice I give is what most people will have success with. So for example, one of those is soil tests. So I tell people, you don't have to have a soil test. People go, what? What are you talking about? Now, I think it's right to tell people to get a soil test. I do. Right. And yes, you should have that data. But what I know is that a good portion of people are scared to dig. They're okay if they stay above the lawn. But to get down it, they just won't do it. It's the same reason why people won't fix their own irrigation. Fixing a sprinkler head is like the easiest DIY project you can do, and there's no risk of hurting anything because if it leaks, it's outside. It's not going to destroy your carpet, right? But people won't do it. And the same thing, they won't dig. And I know that because I've worked with homeowners for so long. So if you tell them, if you don't get a soil test, you're a piece of garbage. Not that you say that, but I'm being extreme. I'm being extreme, right? Being extreme black and white. If you tell people that it's a non-starter, they won't do it. The same is with aeration. I think it's so important to mechanically aerate. Number one, because the butt kicking is so good for you.
It is.
And you learn what is it like to go rent a tool. You know how many people in this world are scared to rent tools because they just don't want to talk to the guy at Home Depot because it reminds them of their boomer boss that treats them like ass. So they don't want to do it. But it's good to get through that, to learn something. Maybe you've never driven a truck with a trailer before. Okay, fine. This is, you know, there's a lot of good things to learn from rinsing an aerator, but I know people aren't going to do it. So I have gone ahead and said, it's okay if you don't aerate. We have liquid aeration for you now. You know, so I don't know how I got on that little tangent, but not everything has to be black and white and perfect all the time. There's a lot of gray area. And so if people see me giving advice that they don't think is 100% right, it's usually because I'm playing to the odds.
Right. And to your point, I'll go ahead and double down on your statement. You do not have to get a soil test, especially for your first year of lawn care. If you go out there, you grab a bag of whatever I tell you to grab a bag of, or whatever your heart wants to grab a bag of, and you put down a responsible rate following the bag rate or something that I advise you to do. Guess what? It's like the guy who's been sitting on the couch for the past year. They're going to, if I go out and make him run 2 miles with me, he's going to have an immediate response regardless, in the better for the long run, regardless, because he was doing absolutely nothing. And that translates to your lawn as well. Exactly. If you've not done anything to your lawn, anything you do to it is going to be better than what you didn't do to it.
And then you have confidence and excitement, right? If you put nitrogen on a lawn, it's going to look good. And then you're like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. Well, then I'll get you to take a soil test because now you're going to go deeper. Right. And so that's, And again, I wasn't aiming that at you. I was just, I thought to bring that up because you're not one of them, but I see guys that they really do. And they make people feel like garbage if they won't do a soil test or if they won't do something a certain way, you know, and it's like, no, there's best practices. And then there is reality practices.
Right. And I'll end that on, and we can move on from beating this dead horse and switch over to the wine. I
should have brought a beer.
Right. You should have brought a beer, and I should have brought a beer with one of your koozies. I got some delicious tea right here from Sage Marie though. But shifting though, what was I about to say? Gosh, I lost it. Bring it back. Here we go. Boom. Yeah. Okay. So you doing those basic things. No, I lost it again. Okay, we'll move on. Anyway, DIY wine. Allyn, you are absolutely right. The person who actually taught me how to make wine is in the building. Mrs. Craft, Small Space Gardening. Um, she definitely walked me through the ringers of learning how to make wine for the first time. And I will get you a bottle. I will deliver it to you by myself when I swing through Florida, and so
Okay.
you can enjoy it. I think if your wife enjoys wine, she'll enjoy this batch that's coming out on here. But it was really just something that kind of blended well with gardening. I thought it's
Yeah,
just
it's cool.
the beer making, which we will still do the beer making guy. I still got the kits here. It's just that the guy who's going to teach me and do it with me, he's in the military like me. So he's just as busy as me. And our schedules just keep bumping, like mine to bump 1 week to the left, his to go crazy. And then, it's PCS station season as well. So it's just crazy right now. But the wine, I got into the wine because I figured, well, one, I wanted to learn how to make wine because I'm a huge wine fan myself. And then two, I felt like people that were harvesting things out of their gardening, be it grapes, fruits, and you had so much, you had the overwhelming volume of those things. And then you could turn around and turn it into not acid, vinegars or wine. So that's why I got into it. And thank you, Miss Craft, for teaching me. And I appreciate everyone that followed along. Dolores and Tony, hey, how you doing? Will, Chips and Guac is in the building. Thanks, brother.
Hey,
Appreciate
I met
you.
him too. I met him over at BYD's
Yeah,
place.
you met him at BYD's house. That's right.
Yeah.
Beauty in the Garden. She says she ordered ryegrass and needs fescue. What can she do with the ryegrass? Well, you can give it to me. So Beauty in the Garden. She's in North Carolina, so she's at the furthest point of the transition zone. I think she's near Pete or yeah, I think she's closer to Pete than she would be to Paul because Paul is a little further north in North Carolina. But that's a good choice to switch from turf type tall fescue to perennial rye. I'm going to let you know if you're in the transition zone. Where I am at the top of Maryland, this is probably this is the lowest you want to try to do perennial rye in this region of the transitional zone because our summers get so hot. I just don't know if you have the willpower to keep up with the watering and the feeding to keep your grass at its peak like I'm going to attempt to do. Now, you guys saw me overseed with perennial rye and Kentucky bluegrass in my side plot. That's what this is right here. Beautiful, delicious. I want to lick it right now. Now, the reason why I did that was not to try to prove that you can do perennial rye in my zone. My Soil, a company that Hane works with very closely, they saw my video this summer when I had discovered that I had perennial rye. Like I didn't even know I had ryegrass over here because it was my first year taking care of it. And I assumed that it was turf type tall fescue like everything else. But lo and behold, it was like some contractor's blend mix that had rye, fescue, Bermuda grass, had everything in it. So I had to smoke a lot of that stuff out, unfortunately, responsibly though. I even showed you guys the new tips that I picked up from TJet to make sure that I could mitigate as much drift as possible. But that particular blend that they gave me has been tested. They've been testing it for a few years. I want to say almost 5, maybe even, I think it's been about 5 years. They've been testing that blend to do well in higher heat climates. So they said they sent this over to me to try it out on my lawn. And even though it does not meet the standard of like white glove clean seed, I can tell you I didn't deal with many weeds, if any at all, when I applied this. And you see what it looks like that fast. So perennial rye, I'm going to recommend that you give it to someone, or again, you can send it to me. Maybe you can return it. Can you return it if that's still an opening window for you? But if you're switching to fescue because of your climate, you really don't want to put it anywhere unless you have a heavily shaded backyard. That's the only other thing I can think of. Like if you have big old pine trees in your backyard and it stays shaded for 60% of the summer, then throw it in the backyard and kind of, play with your microclimate that way. You have anything to add to that, Al?
No, not really. I mean, I I'm I will say that perennial ryegrass has been a grass type that's been hated on,
8 years.
and
That's
I don't
sissy
know why
grass.
that is, but when I worked for True Green, it was the same thing. We would do overseeds in the fall, and they would never allow more than 20% perennial rye, and they only used it because it would visually show the customer. Because Kentucky bluegrass takes 18 to 21 days to germinate, but ryegrass is like, I don't know, 10 minutes. So they
Right.
put like 20, yeah, they put like 20% in there, so the customers would see something and wait for the Kentucky bluegrass. But other than that, they were like, that's garbage grass. I mean, people would always say that, but I mean, I've seen beautiful lawns. I mean, Brett Goodyear, who Brett's Grasscapades, he lives here now, but when he was up in Utah, he had perennial rye. His grass was
Right.
dominant, just
Yeah. It
beautiful.
was beautiful. And it's
So
versatile. You can go high, you can go low.
yeah, so it's cool. That's another example of DIY moving the market. Pros even today, you talk to pros, they'll all hate on perennial rye, but I can tell you perennial rye is selling. You said the guys from My Soil, did they send you that double dark of theirs that they
Yeah,
have?
they said the double dark.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I've
yeah,
seen the numbers on that. It
yeah,
blew out last year.
yeah, and
So,
yeah.
you know,
Did good.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, perennial rye is it's good grass, and it's improved nowadays too. It isn't like the stuff that the boomers had in the 70s. It's new.
Cool.
It's been GMO'd, so it works better. It lasts longer, and some of it can probably take heat better too.
Right. Yeah. The blend I have, what you call him? He just let me know. Gosh, where'd you go? You were just on my screen. Nate. Yeah, Nate from Pacific Northwest Lawns.
Oh
They've
yeah,
been
and
working
Nate
on it.
has it in his
Right.
backyard. Looks
He's been
awesome.
been working on it for 8 years. So they've been working on that blend for 8 years, and then they finally rolled it out. And I mean, you see it, you look at it, you see it. The Lawn and Life, he says, what is the best way? Congratulations on cracking 1,000 subscribers, by the way, the Lawn and Life. What is the best way to help transition perennial ryegrass back to my Bermuda? Is MSM turf the best, or just letting the heat take care of it? I'm going to say I've seen people try to rely on the climate to transition that rye. I think another thing that you're going to have to do, I would AZ Lawn. I think he flips his lawn from a rye to Bermuda completely natural. Every year he's in Arizona, he has success for it. I'd say check with him. I know MSM will do the job, but I also know that if you let it go too long, speaking with Will from Chips and Guac, that it could decimate your potential for your Bermuda to really kick in the way that you want it to. It might just be a late start for you, but Bermuda is dominant, so it will take over eventually. But you might not be where you want to be depending on the point in the season. That's just my little 2 cents of 2 years worth of experience and 10 years worth of reading. But Allyn, you got something to add to that, I'm sure.
Yeah, I always say when in doubt, mow it out, and I would take that Bermuda down as low as you can get it, because the lower it is, the rye will burn out quicker in the sun,
Yeah.
and then I would hammer it with nitrogen, and I would just push it, because the Bermuda, if you mow it and hammer it with nitrogen, I'll give you an example. I was at a golf course about a month and a half ago talking to a guy, the superintendent out there, who has Bimini Bermuda, and I asked him, how much nitrogen are you putting down a year? And he said 8.5 pounds. Now this is in a 12-month cycle. There's a 12-month zone here, but 8.5 pounds of nitrogen. I'm not telling everybody to do that.
Right.
I'm just saying, if you're a sumo wrestler, you got to eat. If you're a heavyweight boxing champion, you got to eat, son. And that is what Bermuda is. It needs to stinking eat.
Yes.
And so I would mow the heck out of it. I would mow it as low as, if you can real mow, you can't. You should real mow it, and you should pound it with nitrogen, and it'll push that rye right out of there.
Right. Beauty in the Grass, she came back and she said, so is it okay if you will like to do 4 seasons? So I think what you're asking is it okay to run with the perennial rye if you're trying to do a 4-season lawn? Like I said, the perennial rye will probably suffer through your summer and bounce back when it cools off. It probably will, because of the new cultivars that are around nowadays. But I think going with the fescue is going to be the better bet. It's more heat tolerant. Fescue has been bred, and it was naturally already a more heat tolerant grass cultivar and type. So I just would skip the rye. I really would. I wouldn't fool with it unless you had the time, Beauty. And I know from you and your garden, that's not going to be that's not going to be something that's a priority for you. So I think that you should just go with the fescue. I'm just going to be honest. The rye, it's possible, but I know between you being a wife, a mom, and a gardener, you're not going to have the time, and you don't have in-ground irrigation. You're just not going to have the time to keep up with that nonsense. It's going to give you more chores, and it's going to be more heartache and pain than you desire. What kind of grass would you use in Georgia? Red clay. See, listen, what people don't understand is that clay has abundance of nutrients. Okay. It's just locked up, and all it needs is a little bit of humic. It needs a little bit of humic. You continuing to mulch your lawn, watering it properly, introducing the organic material so it increases the chelation of the nutrients in that soil. So it's not the soil that's the issue as far as the grass. What you really want to focus on for Georgia is your climate. So for Georgia, you're going to want to slide over to BYD, Will, Chips and Guac, and all those guys. They have Bermuda. If I were you in Georgia, I would go with Zoysia because it's the best of both worlds. You get your nice thick plush feeling like a cool season lawn, and then at the same time it grows really slow. Well, it goes slower than Bermuda does, depending on the look that you're going for. And I would go that route. The soil itself, the red clay, is not necessarily the thing that you need to focus on, other than getting a soil test if you want to take it a few steps further. Like doing nothing, doing it without the soil test will get you through a couple years. It might get you through your entire life cycle if you're lucky. But if you start having issues along the way, you're going to want to get a soil test 3 months after your last application to figure out what you're deficient in to get that thing dialed in, like GG's Naturals from Homestead Lawn did. You got anything to add to that, Al?
No, yeah. When I used to live in coastal South Carolina, so not far from Savannah, Georgia, and that was a lot of zoysia in there, a lot of centipede. Um, Centipede gets a bad rap, but centipede's kind of cool. But yeah, I love zoysia for that area for sure. And then around Atlanta and that Bermuda pretty much dominates in through there.
Right, right. See, Will said Bermuda and Georgia. There you go. He said, I keep you're going to have a challenge with rye in area. And yeah, see, Cam, he just backed up what I was saying. I think you're going with Zoysia is best to, I think if you're going, yeah, it's best to side or go with plugs for Zoysia. It takes a while to fill in, but it is worth it. Who is that other Georgia? Yeah, and the Lawn and Life, of course. You can go check him out as well. I'm sorry, bro. I'm pretty sure I tagged you in my video though for a warm season lawn. Well, all right, guys, that pretty much wraps this little stint up, this live episode up. Zoysia in mud. Yeah, Zoysia, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. So the reason why you're having mud is because you don't have enough plants in the soil itself. So that's the struggle of notes. It's not necessarily the soil in the mud per se. It's
My zoysia sits in mud. My where I have my zoysia, it's wet all the time. It does
right.
fine.
Right. Yeah. So you just need to get the right turf in the right place. And then of course those cultural practices will take you further than anything. Miss Crafts like Team Zoysia. Yeah, Zoysia's the bomb. I'm just gonna let you know.
Great barefoot.
I have to travel to Korea every once in a while for work, and surprisingly, that's all they had out there. When I was walking around, I was looking, getting nerded out. When I had some time off, I was like, oh, this is not fescue. And then I looked and I was like, oh, this is Zoysia. And I got excited and I started rubbing it and playing with it. It needed some fur.
Don't rub it too hard.
Right? It needed some fur really bad, but all in all, it was some good looking stuff. So if I'm not Team Fescue, I'm Team Zoysia. Exactly. If I'm not Team Fescue, I'm Team Zoysia. But I like the rye. I like the rye. The right turf on turf there. Right. Yeah, that's right. The right turf. That's all you need is the right turf and the right climate. All right, guys, hit the like button on the way out. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, and I'm sorry if I missed your questions, guys. This was just as exciting for me as it was for you, for me to sit here and have a conversation with someone I aspire to be like one day. Fellow service member, retiree, self-employed, living life, helping people every day. and then in a sense making his own life better while he goes along his path. So I look forward to this day. I'm glad that you guys stopped in to join me. If you're watching the replay, I thank you for taking the time to watch this replay. Al, once again, brother, I thank you. I appreciate you taking the time to come and join me here on the channel. And if you are interested, I will drop the link for that guide. Please, if you are a brand new lawn care enthusiast, you're looking into getting into lawn care this season, first go subscribe to Allyn. Of course, he's going to explain things in a way that you might gravitate a little bit better than me. And then once you get done getting your gateway drug, go ahead and come on back home. Just make sure you come back home, and then I can give you more. I can give you real good stuff, the stuff that he doesn't have. But yeah, you go over there and you check it out, and then get that long guide, because that long guide is going to allow us to have conversations. It's like getting into the first year of chemistry. If you don't understand some fundamental language, some fundamental vernacular, and have a good foundation on that stuff, then there's only so far I can do to help you. You got to understand, you got to help me help you. And there's a little basic foundation that you got to do. Of course, you can go to your local extension office. Y'all know I'm a part-time employee of my local extension office. I will always tell you to go there first, because it's local to you and your microclimate, which is the beauty of the extension office. But if you want more, or if your extension office isn't adequate, because all extension offices aren't created equal, go check out this guide. I'm telling you, it's not a waste of money. It's going to get you up to speed. And then when you come on home to turf therapy, nothing that I say will seem over the top. You'll have a good, solid foundation and understanding of what it is that you need to do moving forward. If it weren't for Allyn, I wouldn't be where I am and I'm at and know all of the awesome YouTube channels. Facts. There you go. Are you good at chemistry, Rob? Matter of fact, to let you know, I was my first major in school is when I met my wife. It was a nurse, and then I learned what nurses had to do.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I'm going to be a terrible nurse, because I won't care about these people the way that I watch my wife genuinely care for people. So I shifted gears to chemistry, and I majored in chemistry. I went to USC in Columbia, South Carolina, the Trojans, the Gamecocks, not the Trojans. Got that backwards for the first time ever. The Gamecocks, not the Trojans, which is weird that they have kind of weirdly correlated names. So I went there, and then I joined the military, and I became a medical laboratory specialist. So that was my first MOS before I switched over to explosive ordnance disposal technician. And it's funny that all of those building blocks built up to the moment to, even as an explosive ordnance disposal technician, chemistry is very, the fertilizer game and the math and all the nuances that go into that, they blend really well with me, because that's the background and environment that I came from, which is why I gave you guys the fertilizer app. It was like I was tired of playing with it on my phone or doing the math every time that I was doing it. So I introduced something that wasn't in the market at the time, and you guys loved it. So I appreciate the support that you've given me there. So
let me say something to everybody that's watching. If you guys don't know what EOD is, so that's what Rob does. EOD, look up most dangerous jobs in the world. This man has balls of steel, probably brass. So I'm just going to say, look up EOD and you'll understand what he does and why he gets his turf therapy. Just you guys look, people don't understand, because I don't even understand. I just know EOD, balls of steel.
I'll take it. Yeah. Most people say EOD, everyone's divorced. That's usually what goes on. Because of the job, spouses have to have a heart of steel to hang around for that. But did you just say furt and bomb in the same sentence on the video? I did, because it's the same. I mean, without going into in depth and getting this video flagged too much, because I know I'm going to have to go ahead and submit this to be reviewed by a person, because we said so many flag words that it's just going to flag this. But it's okay. They always approve it after a while. But when you come to EOD and dealing with the common people, our common adversaries or aggressors towards our country, our nation, They are very nifty when it comes to using farm fertilizers and grinding them down or processing them, refining them down to a new process to create the main charge to these improvised explosive devices. So with that, I have to be very knowledgeable in the areas to know what ammonium aluminum can do in regard to on the battlefield and the footprint to disrupt the force flow movement throughout the area of operation. So I'm very much, informed on all those levels when it comes to fertilizer. That's why they're very easy for them to be mentioned in the same sentence. And
That
that's why
was
I'm
like
very comfortable.
Timothy McVeigh too, in the Oklahoma City. Same thing.
Yeah, exactly. Boom. Case in point. And that guy, he messed up his primers. So that's why I didn't go off the right way. He made some big boom. We use that as a nice little case study in a lot of our schools. But thank you, Al. I don't want to hold you guys any longer. I want you to enjoy your Saturday. I appreciate you guys for stepping in. The one course I hated, the one course you hated was chemistry. Yeah, my wife and I, we got some funny stories. We'll talk about it later next time I come live, guys. I think I got a whole bunch of wine to rack off. I think I'll I think I'll go live in a couple of days, maybe Tuesday, maybe Monday or Tuesday. We'll go live and we'll rack some wine off and bottle it up because I got plenty to bottle up. And with that, guys, I will see you next time. I thank you for being here. I truly appreciate it. And B. Davis jumped in the building at the last moment. Thanks for coming in. I appreciate you.
B. Davis. That's my buddy.
All right. Well, y'all stay blessed. Take care. And remember to enjoy the mow. All right. Peace. Okay. That's done.